Feeds and stuff like that, but I thought I would just say hi to everybody here live. We got Champ joining us today. How you doing, Champ?
Doing well, doing well. I kicked out at 2 on COVID. I'm feeling a lot better. I'm ready to talk some shit about the Commanders.
Yes, it's spoiler for those just tuning in right now. It's going to be a misery Monday for us, and so it'll be interesting to see how we go through it. But thank you everyone for tuning in already. I see that we do have a redeem already. Is that what you said, Champ?
Mm-hmm.
Do the Commanders make a coaching change? Got it. Okay, I will redeem that during the audio part of the show. Let me quickly just throw on the recording. Um, hold on. Sorry, I have to adjust something in OBS real quickly. Record to this computer.
Recording in progress.
Okay. There we go. All right. Sorry, I had to rearrange my screens a little bit on this end. All right, so the recording is going. Let's just go live onto Facebook in 1 second, and then we'll answer some of those questions. So I appreciate everyone for already tuning in. We'll just be getting started with the podcast in just a second. We are copying all of the information here, including Dujeuner's new stuff. All right, here we go. Paste this and copy and paste this. So this episode will be episode 316 of Sports on the Hill podcast. On the page. And welcome to episode 316 of Sports on the Hill podcast, nicknamed DMV Misery Monday. It's also the Caps preseason final. Just make sure that I exit out of that. And I appreciate everyone for tuning in live on Facebook and live on Twitch. We've already had a redeem live on Twitch, so we'll get to that in just a second. I want to bring in my co-host, Champ. How are you doing tonight, Champ?
It is definitely a misery Monday indeed. So we'll get into it though, but I'm here. I'm here.
Yes. So we have a lot of different guests throughout the show. Everything that's in common with all of us is our teams all lost this week. We'll even have Giants fans on, I think, or we're going to have Ravens fans, Orioles fans. DC United was able to win the game, but unfortunately, they still knocked themselves out of the playoffs. They beat the New York team, knocked them out of the playoffs too. So there was a coaching change. But I really appreciate everyone for tuning in. Give a shout out to Andy, who's live here, one of our great mods, and a great streamer himself, Kalaska, who I love, and I'm now a mod over on her channel. And Tina French is joining us as well, and others. We had a redeem already, which rarely happens, but T-Dog did a redeem, and the question was a question for the hosts. And so, do the Commanders make a coaching change? And we will address this with the rest of the panel later on, but I do want to redeem it now just because it was redeemed before the show. I say no. I think you got to kind of give it the season at this point because I don't think that you're going to find somebody better unless you're just promoting EB to head coach right now, which is a possibility. But I think that you want to see how we bounce back from this past week and see if we've got two important games here, one against Atlanta and one against the Giants. If we're able to win both of those, we're right back in the division, or at least in the wild card hunt. If we lose those, then the season is kind of done for. But Champ, what are your thoughts?
Well, I answered T-Dog in our chat, and I'll say it here. I think that if you do make a coaching change, it's got to be Del Rio if he doesn't improve his defensive scheme, because these last 3 games, this team has given up a lot of yards and a lot of points. But outside of that, I don't think you make a coaching change. I agree with you. I think you got to give it the season and see what happens before you decide to make a coaching change. But I'm sure a lot of the fan base wants the coaches' heads after what happened on Thursday night. But I think there has to be a level of patience and a level of understanding in that you have a very young core and they're trying to work with a very young core.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that assessment. Real quickly, I just want to go through the rundown of the episode. We have a jam-packed show with a lot of special guests. Unfortunately, the Atlanta Braves just took the lead over the Phillies. I'm rooting for the Phillies in that because I have been a Phillies fan in the past. So I will be totally honest with that part of it. But also, just in general, I don't really like the Braves, and I like the story of a lot of former Nationals on Philly, and so I would like to see them have some success. Yeah, so they were winning for a lot of this game, but they're now down 5-4. Also, we're monitoring this game between the Raiders and Green Bay. The Raiders are up 7-3 with 3:43 left in the second. I got them on YouTube TV, so I might be slightly delayed from other people, but it allows me to have 3-4 games going at one time, so it opens up a lot of opportunities. But I'm really appreciate everyone for tuning in. The show tonight will go as followed. In just a couple of minutes, we're bringing in Dugenais. We're going to break down this Commanders loss, blowout loss, and pretty frustrating game for a lot of fans. And then in about 30 minutes in live time, about 9:45, we're going to bring in our roundtable. We've got a lot of special guests coming in. I'll introduce all of them when the time comes, but we'll be discussing a wide range of things, including the end of the DC United season, the Orioles' first playoff series. They're in a bit of a hole. We will talk about the Ravens and their frustrating loss to the Steelers. We'll talk a little bit about the Giants and the beginning of their season, and a lot of other things. So it'll be a very full segment. And then to end the show, we got the Blue Liner on point. Gil will be joining me to break down the rest of the preseason hockey games, and we'll preview the first 2 regular season games, one which will happen before the next show, and next one will actually happen during the live show when we'll switch our format, and we'll start with hockey next week at 9:00 because it'll be a live hockey game, and then we'll bring out the Hurt Report at 9:45, and then we'll have Dugenais on at 10, and Carol will be joining us in a couple of weeks, hopefully. He's still sorting some stuff out, and yeah, so it's big double play to end the game, and Atlanta wins, and Bryce Harper is tagged up at first, it looks like. So that's a frustrating loss right there. So sorry to my friends that are rooting for the Phillies. But they still end up 1-1 in the series, heading back to Philadelphia, that's all they really needed to do is steal 1. 2 would have been huge, though. They were very close being up in this game. All right. Lots to go over. We'll talk about next week's format later in the show. But I want to bring in Dugenais now and start to get into this football game. It's a very frustrating loss. It was one I'll start off by saying I was very worried about last week, if we remember. And I asked you guys a lot of questions about it. And I asked you guys a lot of questions all week about it because I was very nervous about this game. And then you have the passing away of Dick Butkus, one of the most legendary Bears of all time, right before game starts. And I was like, if they didn't need any more motivation, they just got it. And I honestly feel, some of this was our fault as a team, the Commanders, but I think that the Bears could have beaten a lot of teams on that night, just with not having a win in a year, having all those things happen Thursday night football. But I'll ask you, Dugenais, do you think it was us playing horribly, the Bears playing great, a combination? How did we fall to this trap game?
It's a combination of the two, but it's mostly the Commanders playing horribly. I mean, everybody talks about the offense, and I'm kind of sick of people talking about the offense when your defense didn't stop a soul they had scoring on every possession that they had. Enough said. This defense was supposed to be propping up the offense, young quarterback, learning a new offense. They haven't propped up anybody all season long except for one half in the Denver Broncos game. And yet, Jack Del Rio still has a job. Dude should have been on a plane to Destin right after that game.
Yeah. Champ, do you have any thoughts before I get Dujanay's breakdown of the whole game?
I mean, DJ said it best. I mean, this defense is supposed to, like, on paper, look like a top 10 defense, but yet they look like a junior varsity high school defense against an 0-4 Bears team. I mean, their first half possessions, they scored on every single one of them. It was so bad that their first round pick, Emmanuel Forbes Jr., got benched. You don't think that a first round pick would get benched, but that's how bad he was playing, that he got benched. It was just bad all the way around for this team. Offense they did what they could. Sam Howell went out and threw for almost 400 yards, but that wasn't enough because the defense couldn't stop anything. They couldn't stop anything. It was ridiculous. Like, you could put that defense up against a junior varsity high school team and they probably would have scored 40.
That's how bad they were 27. Yeah. They spotted them 27. What do you expect for the offense to do? Spotted them 27 points. I mean, like I said, everybody making a big deal out of Emmanuel Forbes being benched. Look, he's just a pawn in a big scheme that just lands on a guy who I feel like the game has passed him by. You know, we're doing the same. The defense is doing the exact same thing over and over again. There ain't nothing exotic. They're lining up they're putting all their stars in the same spot, and they're just playing zone on the back end. Like I said, Jody, you know, to continue to put a guy in Cody Barton who can't even cover his crank, you know, out here covering wide receivers and tight ends is a joke. And if you're actually looking at the tape, you wouldn't do that to your linebacker. And it's hard for these guys on the back end to cover when the quarterback has 7+ seconds to do whatever he's going to do. And then you're forcing your corners to have to gamble. They feel like they need to make a play. And they got bit on both ends. It just, you know, this defense doesn't do anything to take anything away from anybody. You know, you got DJ Moore. You should have took him away. They don't take away nothing.
So do you really think it's the coaching, not the players not playing up to the potential?
Man,
I mean,
look at the scheme. It's basic.
DJ Moore killed us. Moore killed us.
And why? Because you didn't take nothing away. Nothing. They had their way with the defense. And you know, you can't come out and do this basic crap, and you got these guys in Montez Sweat and Chase Young, and you put them in the same spot over and over and over again. You think Dan Quinn does that nonsense? Absolutely not. They put Michael Parsons in several positions. You don't even know where he's going to be at. And it's basic, man. They ain't doing nothing exotic. And any coach that watches tape can pick this apart. And it's almost as if Jack doesn't even, no matter what he sees on tape, he's just going to do whatever he's going to do. And for DJ Moore to have 230 yards is absurd. That is a joke and a half. Not with this talent on this defense.
DJ, I saw a post on Facebook today. It was a DB on another team. I forgot what team it was, but he was trying to, you know, lift the spirits of Emmanuel Forbes.
Oh yeah,
you know.
I saw that too. Yeah.
And I thought that was a stand-up thing to do. Like, he's not even on that team, but he's trying to prop the rookie up to let him know, hey, look, don't let this dent your confidence. Like, you know, you're gonna have a bad game. You just gotta pick yourself back up, put your head back up, and work.
Absolutely. But what I see is, and you see it in the interviews, these guys are doing an excellent job. Jonathan Allen, those guys are doing an excellent job. I'm not saying that it's the coaching, but I'm gonna say it for you. It's the damn coaching. All right. And I'm tired of seeing these guys be put in positions that does not take advantage of what that front seven can do. I mean, we're going to hang anybody out to dry like that. And again, what is this, the 5th week of a mobile quarterback? and Jack still hasn't figured that out. Come on, man. Like I'm not about, do I feel like Ron should be gone too? Absolutely. But at this point, it doesn't really matter. The fact of the matter is this defense is not producing, and they are not holding up their end of the bargain. They haven't been for 5 weeks. We've seen this story before for the past several years that Jack has been here. And like I've said before, if you want to have a statistically, top 10 defense, you can fudge numbers and make numbers look good by the end of the season. But you know what? By the time they even get those numbers together, they're already out of the playoff hunt. It's too little too late. When they should have been coming out fast, and we speak of this every week about they're going to come out fast. They talking about they need to come out fast, and they never do it. Well, it ain't got nothing to do with the players. All you got to do is look at that raggedy handicap scheme that he's throwing out there, and that'll tell you everything.
DJ, someone asked in our Twitch chat earlier, T-Dog, as a matter of fact, shout out to T-Dog. He asked, and me and Robbie already answered before you came on, do you think the Commanders need to make a coaching change?
Not a head coach. The coach that needs to be changed is defensive, period. I mean, really, to be honest with you, EB is running the offense. The only thing I say about Ron, that garbage that you said in the second half about letting the players talk to themselves, look, man, I'd have been in somebody's backside after that performance in the first half, and you didn't do nothing. That's not coaching, bro. That's not coaching at all. And it's obvious because, again, this team was desperate, or should have been, coming into this game. They've lost a couple games in that Eagles game that they felt like they should have had. Now you have the ability to be 3-2 and would have been ahead of the Cowboys instead of tied with those jabronis if you came out and you were just as desperate the other team. That Dick Buckus crap is garbage. The fact of the matter is you got out coached and they smoked your defense because your defensive coordinator is too stupid to realize the crap that he's running ain't working. Period.
I just can't believe we got smoked so bad at home. And I liked some of the stuff we were doing in the third quarter. I'm like, where was any of that at the beginning of the game? Why did it take a half to even start making adjustments? And it's frustrating because they started to climb their way back into the game at one point, and I thought, oh, maybe here we go. Maybe they will get back into this. And then the defense let them down 3 times in a row again, and they had an opportunity. If you had 3 defensive stops at that one core juncture in the third quarter going into the fourth quarter, we could have gotten right back into it, and it's frustrating because we were so far out of it in the first half, and then we did all that work only to then just get blown out in the end by even worse. And so it's just I've
never been more mad at a football game. I've never been more mad at a football game than I was on Thursday night.
I remember when the Eagles came to town.
Yeah, on the Monday Night Football. That was the last time.
I was at that game. And this game on Thursday made me more mad than that one because I got rained on and we got shit on national TV at home. But this game made me madder than that game. And I was there.
Yeah. Right. The one that made me the maddest, the most, I think, of any game that I went to as a season ticket holder was we missed an extra point that would have tied it at the end of the game after a game-winning drive or a game-tying drive. We marched all the way down the field with less than a minute and a half in the game, and it'd been pouring rain for 3 hours straight, just downpour, right? So I had sat through all of that. I was like, oh, we're gonna actually tie this game, only for us to shank the extra point. So. This is up there with that though. It's most frustrating losses for me for sure. Yeah. And that Eagles one. I was fortunate to not go to that one. Even though I had
the misfortune of going to that one, and I was not happy. Michael Vick killed us.
Yeah, that was brutal. And so this is right up there with them. But Duchesne, we got to have this short memory. We got a big week coming up, right? Certainly. And it's we had a little extra time to prepare in some ways, hopefully, if you want to look at it that way, because sure as shit they shouldn't get any time off for that performance. So it's against an Atlanta team that has not lost at home yet, right?
They're a very good football team outside. It just depends on which Derek Ritter you're going to get. And from what I've seen from this defense, Bijan Robinson is going to have a day. It's just a matter of whether Ritter can be consistent enough to find his wide receivers. That's really the big thing. You know what you got to do. You take away Bijan and you put it on Ritter to beat you. Pitts hasn't been a factor in any game really. He's had a couple catches, but he hasn't been the juggernaut that everyone thought he was going to be. And outside of that, they don't really have. I mean, Drake London is a good wide receiver, but he's not like he's not a DJ Moore in my opinion. You know what I mean? And really, DJ Moore shouldn't have got what he got. During that game, but they don't really have any stout wide receivers. So this should be a game where the defense should be dictating to that offense what they can and cannot do. Because really, you would think Bijan would have had a little bit more success, and he against Houston he had like major success. You know what I mean? They had some plays, they had some trick plays to get him into the end zone. That little flip from Ritter to Bijan was pretty cool. It's an over the head camera shot that shows that flip and how he caught the ball kind of with one hand behind his back and brought it around and got into the end zone. It was pretty slick. That camera view is pretty tight, but yeah, I mean, they're going to have to come out and do what we thought they were going to do last week and really do what they did in the Eagles game offensively. The defense needs to show up, period. And, all this talk about we got to be better. Well, be better. And at the end of the day, from what I'm seeing, when I'm watching this tape, yes, are there some guys that are out of position? Sure. But you're asking your linebackers to basically sit back and you see them a lot. They retreat. So now I think there's confusion on the back end of who's supposed to be helping where, safety out of position. What is that? That's because they're thinking too much, and it's muddy waters on that on the back end of that defense. And it's real simple. Get pressure, do what you need to do up front, attack and dictate, and your corners don't have to be hung out to dry for 7 or 8 seconds. And that's pretty much what it's been. That's how they've gotten these big plays. Extended time, and next thing you know, they're hung out to dry, and we're looking at somebody standing, 5-10 yards down the field because nobody leaked out the back, nobody saw it, and here we are, you're allowing big plays, big scores easily. So something's got to change defensively. I'm not even harping on the offense because we already know what that is, right? We got a young quarterback that's really in his rookie season. You see a lot of growth with them. I know a lot of people talked about them not running the ball enough, but dude, how you running the ball when you down 27?
Yeah, no,
you ain't got
takes that out of the game.
Right, you can't. So all that talk about EB running the ball is irrelevant. Now, if the defense had given him a shot, then we might be talking about something different. And I've been saying this all the last couple of weeks when I hear people talk about defense being out there too long and all that other nonsense. The Jets played the Kansas City Chiefs, and in the second half had barely any offense. The defense was out there a lot, held Kansas City to 23 points, and they still had a shot at the end of the game if it wasn't for a Zach Wilson flub up with the football and fumble. They likely go down the field and score, and they likely beat the Chiefs. So I don't want to hear all that garbage. There's plenty of teams that's battling 10-8. What we look at the Ravens game there, defensive battle the whole time. So don't give me that crap that the defense can't hold it down even when the offense stumbles. Not with that talent back there, not with what they have. And that tells me that coaching is refusing to do what's necessary for the betterment of the players. And he's hell-bent on running that handicap scheme that he's running out there every week, that he's getting gutted. And yet Ron Rivera talking about ain't no time for no changes. Well, if it ain't no changes after this weekend, when they likely going to lay a fat egg on that too, if he's going to continue to run that garbage, then I don't know what to tell you. To me, it just seems like Jack is willing to go down with, Ron is willing to go down with the ship one way or the other. And loyalty gonna get your butt out of here. So whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I just part of me wants like Ron to just take over the defense completely.
And he can.
Right.
That's the problem I have with him not doing something about that garbage. He is a defensive coach.
Yeah, so just give more to EB on offense. Like,
right.
You just take yourself even divest more from that because it seemed to be doing okay through the first couple of weeks, and just solely focus on that and get rid of him until you figure it out.
Well, he needs to get involved this week. If he's not going to let him go, he needs to be very involved in that defensive scheme, and he needs to start talking. And if Jack has a problem with it, then Jack can get on a plane and take his butt to his house in Destin. Yeah. That's how I feel about it. But he should have never made it back to the locker room. They should have handed him his papers right then after that garbage that they put out there on a home field, on a sold-out home field, when this team's supposed to be desperate and they look like a bunch of chumps.
Yeah.
You make a good point, DJ. I mean, goodness gracious me. I mean, you can't have a game in your home stadium sold out like that against a team who hadn't won a game in over a calendar year.
Yeah.
And they turn around and not only do they win, but they whomp you in your own turf.
Exactly. That's what I said. And I think some people saw me tweet that out. You want to get right. You want to get right, game. You need to get right. Washington got you. Because every time somebody need to get right, guess who get foot and backside? Washington. Every single time. So you want to get right, game. You ain't won a couple games in a while. Just wait. Wait till you get Washington on the calendar. You'll fix that. You'll fix that real quick.
It's just crazy. Just a couple of days earlier, we were talking about how good of a game they played against the Eagles, getting back in that, and it's just impressive how it was able to fall apart so quickly for them, and the commentary and what people are saying is just so drastically different 5 days later, not even a week, and
this ain't nothing. I ain't saying nothing different that I've been saying about this defense from the jump. I didn't like what was going on. They're supposed to be better than that. And we've given Jack the benefit of the doubt. And I've said it every year. Every year, the first 5 games, I got Jack on the chopping block. But this time, this is new ownership. Obviously, the Magic Man was not happy about what happened. Okay. And the bottom line is we've seen enough of this. And if you want to do better and you want to have a shot at being at least a wild card team, something's got to change. Doing the same old that you've been doing has got your butt sitting outside, sitting at home on the couch when it's playoff time.
My man Magic Johnson went on Twitter and showed he wasn't happy.
Exactly. And
I respect it. I respect it
too, because what was put out there, it definitely was no intensity, and it was clear the more desperate team was the Bears. And like I said, it ain't hard to decipher what Jack Del Rio is doing on defense. And if I got a mobile quarterback, I'm going to gut you up too. Look at all the other ones. If Russell was more competent, they would have gut them too.
Yeah, it's the whole thing is just very frustrating. And I'm more mad that I kept on seeing it all week, and people were messaging me all week saying my take was so wrong. They're going to whomp them. They're terrible. And I'm like, they're desperate. I don't like a wounded animal that's just like thrashing out for a single win. I think is the most dangerous team you could face. And I just feel like everyone assumed we were just going to walk all over them. Ownership did, fans did, everyone did. And I felt sick from the start, and I couldn't even explain it, but I was just like, watch. I have the receipts to all these messages. And then when it happens, no one wants to hear it. I don't want to brag about being right that we're a sucky ass team, but at the same time, you got to own up that you called me out all week saying that I was crazy to feel this way. And they showed their true colors.
And you have the right to feel that way, because you go back and look at history, whether it's Thursday night football, whether it's Sunday night football, whether it's Monday night football. When they're in this position, what have we seen?
Yeah, we had a short window in the last 2 years where that we had bucked that trend, right? So over the
A
last
little
10
bit.
years, it would have been horrible. And then there was a 2-year period that we did okay at it.
Right.
And so I think people forgot about the previous 8 years that we were horrible at it.
And Ron's track record has been just what we saw on Thursday Night Football. He does the same things coming out of bye weeks. Team come out flat as hell, no intensity, and they get their balls bashed in.
He's just such a middling coach. He's a good coach. He's a leader among men, but the results are 500 almost all of his career, right?
Yep.
I mean, he's had a couple of these outlier seasons where they went to the Super Bowl and they did well with us, early on. And, and he does that to pull you in, but when push comes to shove, he's a 500 coach. I hate to say that, but
you are what you are.
Yeah, it's becoming pretty self-evident pretty quickly that he's not the Super Bowl coach that we were hoping for. That he's more like the 9-8, maybe make it playoffs in a weak year kind of situation. Know, and what are we going to do with that? Are we going to? No one thinks we're making a run. So like.
It really just boils, like I keep saying, it really just boils on what the defense is going to do. I trust the offense, and to be quite honest with you, Ron has taken, Joe Jackson Gibbs was great because of the people he had around him, and he knew how to manage those people. And Joe had his hands on things, but he also let his coordinators do their job, and that's what made him great, and I think Ron has taken more of a, I won't say a hands-off approach, but I mean, you can't really question a Super Bowl winning offensive coordinator, right? Multi-Super Bowl winner coordinator. No, you can't. And the results have really been there. Sure, there's things that haven't worked, but you also have to look at the situations they were put in to have to go to certain things that maybe don't, maybe are a little bit ahead of where Howell is. And he in some cases, he's risen to the occasion. But I don't worry about this offense. They're going to have their growing pains. This is what happens when you have a young quarterback, and really he's in his rookie season. So he's learning this offense. He's learning, he's trying to establish that clock in his head to not hold the ball too long, because that's where I think some of the offensive line deficiencies are. They fall a little bit on him not getting the ball out quick enough. And then, the interceptions are just late throws. So you can live with that because, at the end of the day, he's shown he can learn from that. So those things will eventually diminish. But at the end of the day, you can't have your defense spotting the opponent 20 plus points and then expect to go win a ball game. You know what I mean? You can't come from behind every time. It's not always going to go your way. And we saw that here with the Bears. And they had a lead that most teams not going to come back from. They just didn't have enough time. You're going to run out of time. And in some instances, outside of the mistakes made because they were pressing, I think they would have ran out of time. It was just too much.
Yeah, I want to welcome Davey in the chat. I appreciate him for joining us and everyone for joining us. We've had a very lively chat over on Facebook and on Twitch. I just wanted to get to a couple of quick comments. Some people are excited about the Caps in the NHL more than the NFL, and I totally understand that, but they also hate the Pittsburgh teams. It is interesting that Pittsburgh kind of broke my heart as a Ravens fan yesterday, and then we get to play them on Friday the 13th the following week. So, it's those dreaded Pittsburgh teams. I don't know, DJ, did you watch any of that Ravens game?
I did.
It was pretty hard to watch.
I wonder about Odell Beckham Jr. I don't know. Will he be a reliable target and a reliable source for Lamar? The offensive line not doing so well, but I think we kind of knew that, and I think they're banking on Lamar's ability to run. Sometimes I think some of it is on Lamar too, but there was a lot of drop balls in that game that, Lamar put on target, and really it's not on him, because there's a lot of drops that should have been caught and would not have had them in the position they were in to lose that game. And we've seen this defense do well, and it's like they don't finish. You know what I mean? Especially in those games like they had this past weekend. They just don't finish. And in those close games, again, I think, what was it, the Colts, they gave that up, had the game in hand, gave it up at the end too. So, it's a combination. That was a rough game. That was rough.
Yeah, it's interesting. I also really question Harbaugh's, not going for the field goal at the end of the first half. Just take any points there in such a close defensive game. I think that helps bring momentum your way into the second half. I know ultimately they lose by 7, but I think a lot of the strategies later in the game were dictated, and if scores were different earlier, it could have, changed how some things were played out. And you just don't want to leave points on the board like that. I get that he wants to just pound it in, get the 7, go up big, right? But sometimes being greedy, loses you games.
It does.
And I think that's really important that doesn't happen again. They're going to be playing in London this week. They decided to go to London much earlier this time. They're already there. What are your thoughts on that game next week?
I like the fact that they went early, because I think Buffalo suffered a bit from that travel, and I think Jacksonville benefited from being over there. They had the advantage. So really, it's just you get there early. Now it's just about being prepared. So the Titans are a tough team. They're gritty, just like the Steelers. You kind of look at them and you think, well, they don't do this well, and they don't do certain things. They don't pass very well. The run game hasn't been effective with Henry. He's only had really one game where he's really broken out. But that team is gritty, and they can get after it when they need to. I think D-Hop has been a target, and they've started to get him more involved in this offense. And they got Westbrook-Akine, who's really kind of had his moments of really getting into that, getting involved in the offense, getting some scoring for them. So, and they bring out some trick plays. They tried to bring out the pass again, and Henry was just a little bit long on that thing. So, there's a lot of things for them to work, to be worried about. But if they can clean up some of the mistakes, I think the Ravens can win this game. They have the talent, and they have the ability, especially with Lamar Jackson, really gives them a great edge, because he can do so much. I know people talk down on him, but I think he's a solid quarterback that really can, he can carve you up when his guys catch the ball. So I think the one thing they have to really establish is figure out a consistent run game. And it can't be all on Lamar, because we all know that ain't going to last very long. If he's going to be running it like that, he's going to miss some games. So I think he needs to be out there majority of these games, if not all. So, if they can get things going and they can catch more balls, I think they can win the game.
Yeah. I know that your time is short, so I'm going to let you get out of this on this. Any final thoughts on the Atlanta game next week, or things that you want to see us improve on specifically that could make that difference? Because in my mind, Atlanta's a much better team than the Bears, so we have to have a much better performance, to be able to even have any chance, especially down in Atlanta.
Atlanta has shown all season where they're vulnerable at. The run game is going to be a tough road to toe. Just know that. But CJ Stroud showed that they can be had in the pass game. They've shown that pretty much all season long, that they can be had in the pass game. It's just a matter of not making mistakes. And the defense has to go out and take something away. It's just that simple. I mean, Ritter hasn't looked great. As a matter of fact, just the week before, they're talking about whether he's going to even be the starting quarterback after this week. So, yeah, he had a decent game. It wasn't spectacular, but he had a decent game. But that doesn't mean he's like, anything that I, as a defensive coordinator, should be scared of. Make him do what he doesn't do well. I want to see this defense take away something they haven't done all season long is take something away from the opposing team. This defense has been led around like a daggone sheepdog the whole season. It's time for you as a defense to dictate what they're going to do and what they're not going to do. That's what I want to see. Offensively, look, it's just a matter of them not getting down by 14 or more points early, and this offense can do what it did in Philly. I don't see a problem with that. EB, if you guys pay attention, he does a lot of mixing up. Not the same person gets the ball right now. And if I'm him, I'm trying to get Curtis Samuel even more involved in this offense. I think he's the Swiss Army knife, and I think he's the key to unlock a lot of things downfield to Dox and more consistent downfield passes to McLaurin. But McLaurin's a dog. It don't matter. You put the ball in the vicinity and he's going to go get it. So they just got to come out with some attitude and what we thought they were going to come out with last week. So hopefully they don't come out flat. They come out flat, they're going to get kicked in the balls again. And we're going to be talking about somebody going home.
Yeah. I want to thank Tina French for the gift sub to our friend Davey, who's eating a sandwich. I'm sure. I don't know if he has a sandwich tonight, but he usually has some great sandwiches. So he's a good friend of our show, talk show host, and we talk a lot of other sports with him. Dujane, speaking of shows, I'm going to do the new command. It's cool because now the graphics actually do appear. And we do have the links to the Not Bland show live. If you're watching on Twitch, the link is in the description if you are watching on Facebook. But let people know what happened on the second episode of the show and what you got coming up for the third episode this week on Wednesday.
Well, we had Elon Warner on in the last episode. He talked about the drag racing bracket bonanza. It's a pretty cool thing. You can go online and you can, for each race, which Dallas is coming up next, the Stampede of Speed. And you can go on there after qualifying, right after qualifying up until the first round of eliminations. And you can set your bracket of who you think is going to win all the way out to the finals. And if you're right, you can win in each individual class, or you can win the overall. I won the overall for Charlotte. You get a really cool plaque. I got a nice book from a guy who had been working in the NHRA for years. It's an interesting book that I'll be looking to crack into. We talked to Mike Patton. He's the host of Touring the AFC South. Kind of talked about the Titans and that whole division there and how that's playing out. Up until into that week, everybody was 2-2. So it was pretty interesting how things played out up until this week. And it's going to be a tight finish there. And then we closed the show with Wole, the host of the Urban Sports Scene and all burgundy and gold everything. And we talked Commanders and talked the Bears. This week, we'll be having on Bobby Bennett of the Competition Plus. We'll be talking some NHRA, probably talking some baseball as well. He's a jack of all trades. He can talk anything. In the middle, we'll be having on Karita Parks, talking some Ravens football.
Nice.
And we'll be talking some Ravens football, and we'll be talking a little bit of some NFL big topics. And then I will be having on Carol Porter III. CP3 will be on for the Commanders Talk at 7:40. Nice. And we'll close the show out with that.
I like how Dujane is getting him on before we get him on his own podcast.
Right.
But so that's great. Now, I want to give a quick shout out to CP3, all joking aside. His post game this week was awesome. I mean, people were up until like 1:30 in the morning. There was so many questions. I mean, went for an hour and a half. It was our biggest post game show of the season. So shout out to him for still doing our pre and post game stuff. And I know he really wants to be part of the team. He'll be back in about 3 weeks, we're hoping. But that's great. So if you're missing CP3, definitely check it out on the Not Bland show. Again, links in chat. And I really appreciate Dujane.
I'm waiting for that Not Bland show invite to talk wrestling though.
Oh, we
Yeah.
will. Don't worry. It's coming.
Yes,
It's
sir.
coming.
Yes, sir.
I'm excited. I want to see that episode for sure. All right. Sounds good. Thank you, Dujane, so much for going extra with us. And we'll talk to you next week.
All right, brother. Y'all have a good show.
Sounds good. All right. We're going to bring in Tim here.